Which, before we get to, I want one more quick read from FanDuel. But the NFL season may be wrapping up. There's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed just by placing a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets. Win or lose, the app is easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, including live same-game parlays. There's new bets in the Explorer tab. You can make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, which is the best and easiest way to find popular parlays, and much, much more. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. G, you mentioned the injuries. At this point, do you consider the Browns to be playing with house money because of the number of injuries they've overcome, or because the AFC is completely up in the air, topsy-turvy? They have a hot quarterback, the #1 defense. They have veterans playing towards the end of the contract. Do you look at this playoff run as potentially the best chance for the Browns to win a Super Bowl in their current championship window?
Yes. I think that the Browns had an opportunity. You look at everything, the way everything fell. Take a look at a lot of injuries around the league. They got into the playoffs. They're a 5th seed. And they get Joe Flacco, who's a guy who has some experience. He has an arm. He's hot right now. You look at it having the best defense in the league. You got a pass rusher. You got the best corners that I think are moving out there right now. So your defense is built to stop people. And on top of that, you look at the way you got your draw. Like the Browns have beaten multiple teams that are top teams in the NFL right now. And you look at around the league, Patrick Mahomes has not been playing like Patrick Mahomes. Josh Allen's in the Bills, they kind of backed their way into a 2 seed. But they haven't really been playing like a normal 2 seed and dominating people and getting there.
They've been really hot lately.
Well, you can't say they backed their way into.
Yeah, no, I think they kicked the door down.
They played great down the stretch.
Yeah.
They played poorly early in the season.
Philadelphia backed their way into a playoff spot.
So if you look at it, one team started off hot and fell off, and another team started off a little slow. But I don't think that I would say not backed their way in. They haven't been consistent all year.
It wasn't a typical Bills season.
It wasn't a consistent season where they've had relatively good play on both sides of the football throughout. Right. You look at the Miami Dolphins, they've been hit with injuries. Even the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're kind of like, okay, that's not a typical Steelers team. I look at it from the roster makeup and the standpoint that this year is the best year to catch people slipping. Right now, if I look at an AFC, there's no dominant team, and the team that is the best team, the Ravens, you've beat before, and it's in a division from your opponent. So I think this year, by far, is one of the best years that the ball has bounced in the way it fell, that they get an opportunity.
So maybe I misread the question. Are we projecting forward, like this is the best year right now for our champion? Because the way it was written, it made me think that you were kind of saying that a lot of these elements are going to fall off next year.
Or could.
Projecting forward. I think could is the way.
I mean, we don't know what's going to happen with Amari Cooper. They'll likely restructure. We don't know what's going to happen with Nick Chubb. So maybe I misread the question. I thought you were saying we better do it now because this will be easier this year than future
that's
years.
what he's asking. Do you feel that way?
Okay, so
I guess the way, and maybe I worded it wrong, but considering how everything is lined up, you have a red-hot quarterback, a great defense.
You better win it now.
Up in the air.
Is that what you're saying?
Do you feel like this could be, and it's an impossible question to answer because we don't know what's going to happen next year.
We don't.
But because of how the stars have aligned here,
I see.
Do you feel like this could be the Browns' best chance in whatever their championship
window is?
I hope
not, because if this is, that means the window's closing. And I think the window typically doesn't stay open very long. It just depends on, a lot of different circumstances with player salaries and your quarterback situation and how much he's making and how long you have him under contract for. My hope is that the window is now at its peak. We felt like in the past few years that our window of opportunity was opening. I would like to think now that it's at its peak, but I would like to think that we could maintain that for at least another year and maybe 2. And the biggest part of this equation is, what is Deshaun Watson going to be? If Deshaun Watson plays up to his contract, then absolutely not, this isn't our best year, because Deshaun Watson, I'm told, has elite ability and can play at the level that can bring a championship to town. So it better not be our best chance, and the window better not be closing. If so, the Haslams wasted a whole lot of money and a lot of draft picks for nothing.
I look at it as a standpoint, not just on their roster. Look at the breaks they got. So, just in the division, Joe Burrow didn't play the whole year.
Right.
So that's a team that's a contender that just got wiped out.
Right.
Aaron Rodgers didn't play the whole year. We assume Aaron Rodgers can still play football. Jets, whole season finished. So there's a lot of teams. Justin Herbert had a horrible coach. Next, he's going to still throw for 4,000. So next year, that team may be better than they are.
Sure.
So I think there's a lot of things that go into it. Pittsburgh don't have a quarterback. So, those teams can figure it out kind of quickly. And next year, the Bengals will be the Bengals, and by the way, they won 9 games this year?
Yeah.
So you're in the toughest division. You got a whole bunch of people coming back next year that you still have
So
questions
you're not
about.
necessarily looking at it from the Browns standpoint. You're
Yeah.
looking at it from the macro and just the environment that is the AFC right now.
Even if you say,
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
even if you say that the Browns will be at the same level next year,
Everybody
there's gonna
else
be
is coming
other
up.
teams,
Yeah.
maybe not everybody, but you
Some
would
of the downtrodden.
right. You would assume at least that the Jets, Kansas City, and the Bengals will all be better next year.
Yes.
Now they may not be, but you would assume they will all be.
I think to G's point, the Chargers will too. I mean, we saw
True.
what Harbaugh was able to do with an NFL-style offense in San Francisco. He took that team to the Super Bowl. He's got a Super Bowl caliber quarterback. I think if they get Harbaugh,
Right.
I think the Chargers might be the team that makes the biggest jump next year.
And what if Pittsburgh gets Russell Wilson? I know Russell Wilson's not great, but he's certainly better than what they got. What if they got Justin Fields? Again, better than what they got. So the Pittsburgh could be better too.
Yeah.
I agree. Listen, I hope that a year from now, we're laughing at the fact that maybe this was their best chance to win.
I hope so too.
But when the best part of your team is your defense, that's harder to predict from year to year.
It is.
Yes.
Because there's more guys that have to play well. When the most important part of your team is the quarterback, there's generally, unless he gets hurt, less margin for error. You know that, even this is a bad year for Kansas City. They're still the 3 seed.
Yeah.
And it's a bad year. Patrick Mahomes, it feels like he had a bad season. He still made the Pro Bowl. Now, you and I may agree that he doesn't belong in the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, he doesn't.
But he's close enough.
Sure.
That he's not, down the tubes.
Right.
So that's the thing. If the big unknown is Deshaun Watson.
Right.
Right?
That's it. He's the
When
X
the Browns
factor.
traded for Deshaun Watson, I was very excited because I was like, the Browns finally have a premier quarterback. But he clearly hasn't played at that level with any consistency for 2 years. If he does, then this is not the best chance potentially.
Right.
If he doesn't, then yes. Which is so funny because the reality is that what's funny is when Deshaun Watson got hurt, we convinced ourselves the season wasn't over. And it turned out we were right. The season's not over.
Right.
But we're only right because of Joe Flacco. That's the reality.
1,000%.
Because if they had just gone
PJ
with PJ
or
and DTR, the Browns weren't going anywhere.
No.
And that's
They may have still made the playoffs,
Right.
but we weren't going to be talking. We're talking about them as a legit Super Bowl contender. We all believe that. I can't imagine that if DTR or PJ Walker were the quarterback right now, that I'd truly believe
Unless DTR showed such rapid
Way huge
acceleration.
growth. Huge
And
growth.
by the way, I do think he was showing
that. Yeah,
maturation.
but not like this.
But
I mean,
to the level that Joe Flacco has played,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. And
Yeah.
It's so funny how even when he's not in the conversation, he's in the conversation, Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
Because you cannot project this team's future without trying to figure out what you're going to get from a guy that you have no idea what you're going to get from.
That's right.
We don't know.
I mean, do I think the defense is going to be really good again next year? Yeah, I think it's going to be really good, but it might not be quite as good. For what you part of you says, well, they'll be healthier next year, so they'll be better. But you just, for whatever, the chemistry right now in this team is fantastic.
I
And
agree.
maybe it's going to be fantastic again next year. It might be, but you never know.
I know.
The new year,
Yeah,
you never know.
But for all those that say, we talk about chemistry.
Yeah.
If we're going to tout Stefanski, don't you have to trust him? Don't you have to think that, okay, he's shown you this year, I could do things with a lot of quarterbacks.
Oh, no, there's complete trust.
So for me, I don't expect them to come back next year and fall all the way off. I expect him to still play at a high level because he's shown you consistently. It doesn't really matter what quarterback it is.
Right.
I could get it done. And there's a lot of coaches who get that cachet. We talk about Mike Tomlin all the time. We talk about Harbaugh, how they just consistently, even though they don't have the best years, they don't have a quarterback, they don't have a lot of things, they still manage a way to get it done. Maybe for us, we have that guy, Kevin Stefanski, and you got to give him the benefit of the doubt going into the season.
There is a little
saying,
bit
"Let's
of
do that."
sample size to work with here, though, because after the 11-5 playoff season in 20, and we thought then, we were talking, well, they're going to be a AFC contender, if not the number 2 or 3 favorite, based on how they played Kansas City. And they went all the way back to 7-9. Now, granted, Baker was hurt and the quarterback play was bad, but Stefanski was still the guy running the offense and running the show, and they went from 11-7 in one season. It can happen, but I to your point, I totally trust Stefanski. I want to ask you guys quickly, this is off topic, but I read about it this morning, and I really want to get your thoughts on it. There is a real rift going on with the New York Giants between Brian Daboll and Wink Martindale. In fact, when Daboll fired a set of brothers that were Wink Martindale's right and left-hand man on his defensive coaching staff that he brought with him from Baltimore, it was against Wink Martindale's suggestion. He did not want them fired. Daboll felt that there was a power struggle going on in the organization, and he felt like the 3 of them were trying to assert their power over Daboll. So Daboll fired the 2 brothers. Well, that didn't sit well with Wink Martindale. He said his piece in a private meeting. This is according to a report in New York. Pounded the table, got up, left the room, slammed the door, flew back to his home in Sarasota, and the Giants haven't heard from him. I only bring that up because we know the draw and the mecca that New York is. I don't think there's going to be a huge market for Jim Schwartz as a head coach.
He's not been connected to any teams at this point.
And I've talked to a couple of people, and again, we mentioned this on the show. Look at the hot names even now. They're young offensive minds. That's the de jour, the coach de jour in the NFL right now. I'm asking you guys this because the Giants have some pieces. Clearly, the defensive unit of the Giants was their strong point this year. When I read that, I'm like, Martindale's going to walk, and Daboll is going to call Jim Schwartz to be his defensive coordinator.
I'm not worried about it at all. I don't know why he'd leave. No, I
mean,
mean,
you would leave because it's Cleveland and New York.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know that football coaches care about that in terms it's not like the Giants are going to pay him more. Jimmy Haslam's got a ton of money. He can pay him whatever the hell he wants.
I think for him it's not about pay. I think and you guys will understand this because we lived it in Cleveland with Greg Williams. Oftentimes, coordinators will move to jobs where they think the coach there is on his last leg. Because then the ascension it's a natural progression, particularly if that move happens in season. And Brian Daboll is on his last bit of oxygen in New York. They're not going to fire him this offseason, but I'm told he's dangling by a thread. So if I'm Jim Schwartz, I know the Browns aren't. Kevin Stefanski is not dangling by a thread.
No, I hear you.
But Daboll is, and that would be an easy progression for him to become a head coach again.
If you're Jim Schwartz, do you want to be a defensive-minded coach in New York without a quarterback? Ask Salo about that.
No, he wants to be a head coach. That's
but
what
I'm just saying, if he is to the head coach,
I get what you're saying.
They don't have a quarterback.
I didn't think about it from that angle. It's a good point, but I think ultimately, I don't know that after Wink Martindale, a very well-respected DC, is bumping heads with the coach. Does he want to deal with that nonsense at this point? No. He might have the same problem.
We don't know. I can't jump in his head, but I do know the motivation of coordinators is to ascend to be a head coach. Yeah. And I thought it was really telling last week when talking to the media that Jim Schwartz could have answered that question a million different ways. Yeah. He went the way he did because he wants his name out there.
Sure.
Now, I did some poking around. I'm sure you guys did as well. His name is not out there.
Not out there at all.
On all of the vacancies that are currently open in the NFL, his name is not being whispered about any of them.
Not a lot of veteran coaches are at all, except for Harbaugh.
At his age, there is a sense of urgency. If I'm going to do it again, it better be in the next year or two.
I just feel like I can't worry about it. If it happens,
it
happens.
I don't. Listen, I don't want to sit here. I'm not biting my nails over it.
You could hire Wink Martindale.
You could. And you know what? I think that might be a swap that New York.
Let's ask Leroy about it. What do you think?
Yeah, let's bring in Leroy here real quick before we get to Leroy.